Morning everyone, my name is Luke and this is Genuinely LAS. Just behind me over there you can probably see my Hyundai i30N. Now, I've travelled about 15,000 miles this car so far. It'd be a good time now to sit here and reflect on what it's been like to own, what I like about it, what do I not like about it, and what it would be like for you guys to actually own. Or if you're comparing it between rivals looking to buy one, what it's actually like to own rather than just seeing what a review for 10 minutes is like. So this car's been out for nearly coming up to 4 years now, so there's quite a bit we already know about it. So what do we already know? Well, the N in i30N stands for Nürburgring or Namyang. It's the two development centres that the Hyundai team are based at. They're based at Nürburgring and they're based in South Korea in Namyang. The car itself was developed by Albert Biermann. He came over from BMW M to help kickstart the Hyundai N brand. And also, you may not know, he also helped launch the Kia Stinger, which is the top-end GTS 3.3 litre twin-turboed saloon out of Kia. Incredible car, so cool. This car's also got an 2-litre inline Theta turbocharged engine. This car itself, the block itself was originally designed as a collaboration between Chrysler, Mitsubishi and Hyundai, and the actual block at one point was used for the Mitsubishi Evo 10, the more you know. The engine itself was actually mainly used and designed early on to be used in the US quite heavily in the Santa Fe and the Tucson SUVs and the Sonata saloon. See, one of the things that it definitely sticks out with this car is the fuel economy isn't as great as a more refined engine that you see in a Golf GTI or a Honda Type R or even a Renault Megane RS 280. It is very torquey in the mid-range. You're talking about 353 Newton meters of torque or 400 Newton meters of torque on overboost, and that's actually not that much less than a Mercedes A45S, the big flagship 416 horsepower version. Depending on what side of the bed you wake up, the reviewer of the car woke up on, or what shape the moon is, the car either generates 271 horsepower, 275 horsepower. I think you're probably more so looking at 275, and 0 to 60 around 6.1 seconds, although owners are known to get below that. And as you can see, the new DCT i30N that's out, 0 to 60 times have dropped to about 5.5 seconds. So anywhere between 5.5 and 6.1 seconds, if you really nail the shifts, is definitely achievable in this car. One of the most defining parts of this car is the red stripe at the front, the red stripe at the back, and also the triangle tail light. There definitely are signatures of the i30N. And even in the fastback version, they still have the triangle, but it is instead of fog light instead of a brake light, which keeps the design quite smooth looking in a way. It truly is a great piece of kit, and I haven't done many mods to it, although some people I know have been able to mod the car to over 400 horsepower, which is insane to even think about. But right now mine's stock, only running a few cosmetic upgrades including spacers, a grille surround wrap and a black badge. Two things I think you really need if you're going to get a dark colour like mine, the Micron Grey or the black, is the dark black grille surround and also the dark black badge add-on as well. They're aftermarket, they give it a really cool Batman spec look, which I think is needed rather than the light grey surround, which doesn't look very nice at all. You can see that in the new facelifted cars, they don't have that, so it shows you what a big difference it can make. So what's the car like to drive in a word? Well, if I could use any word at all, I'd probably use playful. The lift-off oversteer of this car is pretty noticeable, even just before you turn off track stability control completely. Around sport, you definitely feel the lift-off oversteer as you kind of go into corners. Currently with the spacers on, it definitely nullifies a lot of that. The car was a lot more planted, which is nice in a way in long, fast right or left-hand corners, but it definitely is missed. It's missed having the kind of the agility of the lift-off oversteer, especially as this car weighs just over 1,400 kilos. It's a heavy thing, and you can definitely feel it when you're going into some tighter corners. You feel the weight of the thing kind of shifting as you're going around corners. It definitely doesn't feel as nimble as a Honda Type R, although it does well to beat a Golf GTI. You definitely notice it's not on the same level as a Honda Type R, which is a lot lighter. I think a big question that you get asked, especially when you get an i30N, is why? Why did you choose an unproven brand over a Golf GTI Honda Type R, or even a Renault Megane RS 280, which is actually quite rare in itself, or a trophy. Well, for me it was just to be a bit different. It was nice to think that there was a brand that was doing something different. It wasn't going for fast lap times or kind of punchy power with quite a lot of comfort. It was going for fun. And when you drive this car, you're smiling all the way. The pops and bangs are a signature of this car. You've probably heard lots about it. The pops and bangs really do feel like it brings this car alive in the top of the rev range. I do feel in a way though that the pops and bangs are there to get you to rev out the engine, because you do feel that after about 4,500 RPM the engine does start to wane. Like, it doesn't have the same punch it did in the mid-range from about 1,300 RPM to about 4,000, which is really, I think, the sweet spot of the car. So it definitely does leave a bit to be desired at the top, but the pops and bangs kind of keep going, give you the momentum to keep going right to the red line, and get the flashing indicator lights at the top. It is such a cool experience just driving around town in this car, let alone being on the track. But now that's a lot of theory. I think it's probably time you hop in the car and kind of see what it's like actually to be sat inside at the place you spend most of your time anyway. Oh. So being sat in the i30, what's one of the first things you notice? Well, firstly, you notice how comfortable the seats are. They made a huge effort to try and get the electrically adjustable seats to be as low as the manually adjustable seats, and they've done a fantastic job. You do sit and feel really snugly fit in the car, and you know, I'm 6'4", and even I still feel quite comfortable. My knees are obviously quite high, but it's a great place to sit. The second thing you notice is how kind of dark it is in here. There's not a lot of colour at all, and I know the Hyundai have made a slightly bigger push, I guess you could say, with the i30N to kind of add some blue colour accents to kind of really bring the cabin up to scratch, really up to, you know, some of that kind of shouts you know when you step in. It doesn't really match the character of the car whilst sat in here. It is very dark and grey, and there's no other interior colour options, so it's a shame. I think it's a huge shame. The third thing you notice, and I think obviously it's a personal choice, but I feel like it does make quite a bit of a difference, the lack of a sunroof option, even an option. I think one of the things that would make this so nice during the summer months especially, like, it's such a lovely day today, is to kind of be able to look out, open the sunroof, hear the sound of the exhaust, you know, kind of as you're burbling along the road. But because of the lack of option, you know, you don't even get the option to, you don't even get the choice to see if you want to, you know, look up into the sky or not. I think what's especially interesting is you can get the i30N with a sunroof in obviously Australia, but Central Europe, you know, like mainland Europe, Germany, France, Croatia. These countries all have the option of the sunroof. So I'm not really sure what they were deciding at that point, why they decided to not bring it to the UK. Even with the facelifted model, they still haven't brought the option of the sunroof. So maybe there's no demand for it, but I do think, you know, it really would help it take over, you know, be able to kind of really attack the Golf GTI on a lifestyle perspective. I think the lack of a sunroof, I think, is a bit of a turn-off for, you know, casual drivers who like the extra power, the extra punch, but they don't get all the, you know, they don't have the benefits that you can get in a normal i30 or the Golf GTI. You also notice quite quickly, whilst you're sat in this car, the slab of, you can't see it with the camera, the slab infotainment screen that you have right here. Now, I think does feel like it's been stuck on a bit last minute. It is a bit of a shame that it's not better integrated. But what I will say is when you're sat driving in the driving position and you're looking over at Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, realistically, the maps on the i30N aren't great. They're not great on the i30 as it is anyway. So using Apple CarPlay is the way I usually go, and having it right there, just being able to peer over rather than look down or anything like that, it does make a big difference. And there's plenty of physical buttons as well. The system is pretty good. It's slightly laggy, I'd say. I don't think it's as fast as it could be, but I mean, for what you get for it, it's pretty great. I think when you look down as well, you start to see, you know, heated seats. Heated seats and a heating steering wheel as part of a winter pack. It was the only option you could get apart from the colours on this car, and obviously I've kind of gone for that, especially in the UK in the winter months. And you know, the buttons are easily like located down here. They're easy to find and press whilst you're driving. The gear shift, I think it's a great gear shift. It's quite notchy at times, and gear 5 to 6 is no problems there with the i30N gear change. Some people get a synchro plate change. Some people kind of just work through it. I'm part of the people who've just worked through it. it hasn't been that bad for me. It does flare up every now and again, but nothing, you just kind of put the kind of put the clutch back in, get it into sixth, and happy day. So that's not the end of the world for me, but it's something that I think, is, well, it's a known fault if, you are looking at buying one of these and kind of wondering why it's so stiff from fifth to sixth. I think one of the great things about being sat in the i30N is the largely physical dials. Most cars, the Renault Megane RS280, the Golf GTI, the Honda Type R, these all have digital dials or implement digital dials quite heavily. And even in the facelifted i30N, they still kept these manual analog dials, and it is nice to kind of see the rev counter really move. You got the shift lights you get in the BMWs, which obviously come over from Albert Biermann, and obviously you've got the lights showing how warm the engine is, how far you can really rev it out to. Again, something brought over by Albert Biermann, obviously from BMW. The steering wheel itself, chunky. It's really chunky. It's really nice. It's so nice to kind of have your hands on it all around. Really, you've got obviously you've got the blue drive mode buttons. You have normal, sport, eco on the left. On the right, you've got N mode and N custom. Now, what I think one of the great things about N custom was the fact that you had about 1,400 different combinations, and that is all well and good. I do love the idea that you can really customize it to fit your needs, and this system was quite similar to the one they had in the Kia Stinger, but there was no option for a custom mode there, which I find a little bit baffling. I think despite all of the customization options you have, we probably will find you'll do on day-to-day driving is everything in Sport Plus, suspension in normal or sport, and steering in normal again or sport. It's the N mode suspension is insanely firm. Like, I can only really describe it as driving over a teenager's face, or literally it could arguably be less comfortable than driving along on your face. So it's not the best by any stretch. It definitely is, even in normal mode, firmer than a Golf GTI. But, I feel like it brings, I am slightly biased obviously, but I do think it brings quite a bit of character to normal day-to-day driving. You feel really connected to the road, and it's an enjoyable experience. You don't feel like you're being bounced around. Like, you can tell there's quite a lot going on under you, that you can feel kind of all the nooks and crannies, and you do kind of look ahead, you might see a bump and you might think, I'm going to feel this. But it's not off-putting. It doesn't make me want to get out of this, get rid of it, get a Citroen C3 of the air suspension that's like driving on clouds. It really is more involving, if anything. Another thing to know about this car is that it's 1,400 kilos, and when you're driving around day to day, you don't necessarily feel 1,400 kilos, but when you get into a B road or you get a bit of lift off oversteer, you do feel, when you're trying to make adjustments, you can feel the heft and the weight of the thing. It does feel like you notice it. It's not, it's not an Alpine A110 or a Lotus Elise, but it does a job. It does a job. I feel they could have made it lighter. They did release an i30N Project C. It was a little bit more lightweight, but nothing drastic at all. It does make you wonder where all this weight's coming from. Now, part of it could be the engine, the big 2-litre Theta inline 4 engine, but I feel like the car itself it's unnecessarily heavy. It's unnecessarily heavy, and I really can't wait to take it out on a track day and kind of see how it copes, because just driving around on B roads, there's only so much of a gauge you can kind of get on how the weight affects the precision of the car in corners, or how it feels when you're kind of going on long right-handers or long left-handers, how the weight feels, how it shifts when you kind of, when you're moving around. So really, it's a really interesting thing to find out. And I think it's time to go out for a drive and see what it's actually like on the roads. the i30N comes with bespoke Pirelli P0s. And as nice as it is to kind of think this car does come with bespoke tyres, they are on the finer side of trash. Like, they're not, especially in wet conditions, you do feel like you're driving around, or wet or snowy conditions, you do feel like you're driving around as a Hyundai, almost like a Bambi type situation. They are just not good in wet or cold conditions, and so I think a lot of people do change when they can to Pirelli, to Michelin PS4s, or even Goodyear R19s. They are much better tyres in all conditions, I do think, and the longevity of the tyres is that bit better. You do also find the Pirelli tyres are quite thin. They do make it quite susceptible to curb the wheels in a variety of different ways, and a variety of different ways that can make you cry on demand, really. I think on the road, this does feel, you don't get that much tyre noise. I think it's one thing that's quite interesting. You don't get that much tyre noise, and as well as the fact this car does have quite a rioty exhaust, there's not a lot of drone at all, especially at motorway speeds. You've got the car in 2,000, 3,000 RPM. It doesn't feel like it drones that much, which is quite nice. There's a bit of a fear for me in game, because I do sometimes do quite long motorway journeys. The seats themselves as well, as I kind of spoke about earlier, they are so comfy, and they don't, as some people have said, I don't ever feel numb or very happy to get out of the seats after a long journey. They do cocoon you, do feel so nice. It's like being a bit like being in a bed. It's a lovely place to be, lovely place to be sat. What's it like for driving dynamically though? I think it's a big question for a lot of people. I do think that driving dynamically, this car is not on the level. Again, I think it's quite easy to benchmark it against the Honda, the Type R, because of the fact that it just blew the Volkswagen Golf GTI out the window. But dynamically, it feels responsive when you want it to be. It feels slightly heavy when you want to make really fast turns, or almost like when you're piling into a chicane. But it does feel nimble enough that it can hang with quite decent cars. I never feel afraid that I'm going to get gapped by a Golf GTI because of the front axle that it does have, especially a club sport. So I'm quite happy with it. I'm quite happy with how it operates, and I do definitely want to do a track day video for you guys, taking it out on the track day to kind of show you what it can do. I think it's easy to get quite used to driving this on usual roads. I don't think a lot of people do necessarily take the i30Ns on track days, despite the fact it does actually come with track day warranty included in the 5-year warranty, which I think is a huge plus for big track days. One of the things that's really surprised me about the Hyundai i30N is the fan base that it gathers. I'll say you can associate Golf Rs with quite a wide audience, but you do tend to see them driven by a lot of young people, similar age to myself. But with i30Ns, it's not just young people. There are people who are a bit older, and one of the first people I ever spoke to after I got this car actually was in his 70s and just picked one up. And what a legend that guy was. I've had people come up to me in a car park asking about it. They might be standard i30 owners, they might just be car fans. It intrigues people. It's different. It's not your everyday Golf GTI. When I first picked this car up, there were about 1,500 of them on the roads at the time. That has swelled a bit, especially the new DCT car coming in. But at the end of the day, it still is quite, you don't see many of them compared to a Golf GTI. I'd probably say I see about 5 Golf GTIs a day. An i30N, I've probably seen about 20 to 25 over the course of the time I've had this car, which is, it's nice. You give yourself a little wave, have a little flash. It's nice. It feels like a bit of a community. And the N-Car forums has been fantastic in getting to know people. A good place to find common issues, just like any other forum. But the camaraderie has been fantastic. I think with the addition of the new models, it really is going to be something special in the years to come. But undisputedly, my favourite part about this car is when you go down the gears and use that rev matching, it just eggs you on. You just want to keep going fast and just keep pushing it. Oh, you get this sense of speed. Honestly, it feels like it just keeps on building, keeps on building. It's such a ride, it's such a ride. Even if you don't want to buy one, give one a go. It's such a piece of kit. It's such a piece of kit. And it brings people together. It brings people together. It'll make people hate you when you're barreling down their roads, but it'll make people love you as well when they get to see and hear it up close. My goodness. But it'd be great to hear from you guys. What else would you like to know about this car? Put the questions down in the comments below. Would you like to see me do this car? Like to see me do a few mods? See if I could see what mods you can get to maybe not overdo it, but give it a mod plus feel, an i30N plus feel. It'd be great to hear from you guys in the comments below. Thank you for listening. This has been Genuinely LAS. Once again, my name is Luke, and like and subscribe if you're new, which probably all of you will be. And see you in the next